It seems like Zionists feel threatened by Black people. Hello, my viewers, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a critical conversation about the influence of money in politics and the suppression of progressive voices. AIPAC, a powerful pro-Israel lobby, is spending tens of millions of dollars to unseat Bowman, a progressive Black leader in New York. Why? Because he's championed Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, and the health and safety of his constituents. As our featured speaker reveals, AIPAC's agenda is not about representing Jewish values or safety, but about perpetuating a harmful and violent status quo. By recruiting a candidate who has slow-walked desegregation and accepted donations from MAGA Trump supporters, AIPAC is attempting to silence a powerful voice for change. So with that said, join me as we explore the disturbing truth about AIPAC's efforts to undermine progressive members of Congress, particularly Black and those of color. Let's hear from individuals who are fighting against AIPAC's influence and learn how we can support leaders like Bowman who are committed to a better future for all.
AIPAC is a pro-war lobby that hides behind the Jewish community to justify its agenda of death and destruction. Hey everyone, Lily Greenberg here. You may know me because last month I resigned from my position as an appointee with the Biden administration, and I became the first Jewish appointee to resign in protest over the administration's funding and support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. And I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to the rest of this video, because we have the most expensive House primary ever happening in New York right now. AIPAC is on track to spend $20 million to unseat Bowman, who's a progressive Black leader. He's championed Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, and he's fought for the health and safety of all people. I know AIPAC up close and personally. I was involved with them as a young person through my school and my synagogue, and I got involved because I believed that fighting for Israel was fighting for Jewish people, for Jewish safety, and for the values that I care about. And over the last 10 years, I've seen how AIPAC is not an organization that cares about Jews. They don't care about Americans, they don't care about Israelis, and they definitely don't care about Palestinians. AIPAC is a pro-war lobby that hides behind the Jewish community to justify its agenda of death and destruction. And our government's unconditional support for Israel, it's not a policy problem, it's a political problem. And if we're going to change that, we have to defeat AIPAC. AIPAC is on the side of white supremacists, insurrectionists, and people who threaten American democracy and everything we hold dear. So who did AIPAC recruit to run against Jamal? This guy has slow-walked desegregation in Westchester. He has made it clear that he doesn't want to represent the Black and brown residents of the district. And he's accepted and solicited massive donations from MAGA Trump mega donors. AIPAC is backed by these GOP mega donors, and they're intent on unseating progressive members of Congress of color who have fought for a better future for all people, both here in the US and in Israel-Palestine. The thing is, so many of us in the Jewish community, we want that better future too. We believe that, healthcare is a human right. We want meaningful action on climate change. We want reproductive justice. We want our leaders to not just fight anti-Semitism, but also fight Islamophobia, racism, and all forms of bigotry. We want a thriving future for Israelis and Palestinians. Equality, justice, safety, dignity for everyone. We're not going to let our communities get pit against each other any longer. So if you want those things too, I need you to do something about it. I need you to join a GOTV canvas if you're in the New York area this weekend so we can keep Jamal in Congress. And if you're not in New York, you can join us remotely to phone bank on Thursday. You can use the links below to sign up for a canvas or a phone bank. But this is not a weekend to sit this one out. We need all hands on deck to keep Jamal in Congress. We've got to keep him in his seat. We've got to defeat AIPAC, and we've got to send them a message that they can't buy seats in the US Congress any longer. They can't speak for us anymore, and they definitely are not going to win this fight for the country that we deserve, for liberation, equality, and a thriving future for all people.
This is the thing that chaps my about people who don't want to vote. I always say, voting is not the end-all be-all. It's not. It is one tool in the toolbox, but it is something that everybody should, to me, it's bare minimum. Everything else, all your other activism and organizing is the most important thing. Voting is the bare minimum. Voting is like brushing your teeth. Bowman is one of the only members of Congress who is not owned and bought by AIPAC, and for that reason, he is coming under heavy attack. And I mean heavy. They're coming after him with everything they've got. They're putting $100 million in this election cycle, okay? They are all over social media and mainstream media calling him anti-Semitic, saying that he's an essay denier and all this other smearing and racist shit that they're doing. AIPAC brags a lot about how people that they endorse, that they push, that they buy win their election. And most of the time they do, with a few exceptions like Thomas Massie and Summer Lee, who both defeated AIPAC despite heavy spending. But most of the time, AIPAC and money in general will be the deciding factor in an election. That's why our system is so corrupt. But anyway, the point is, this is where the I don't vote at all, it doesn't matter, can do a lot of damage. Because Jamal Bowman, despite his flaws, and he has many, is one of the few people in Congress who has called for a ceasefire and who isn't absolutely psychotically cheerleading the genocide in Gaza and voted against the bill to give them more weapons. And for that, he is now being primaried, and because of the smear campaign against him, he's losing by 30 points in the polls. His primary is next week, and as it's looking right now, he's gonna lose. So my question is, like, if you're somebody who thinks that voting is stupid or a waste, and I understand that impulse because our system is so corrupt, but as it stands right now, we have a choice between Jamal Bowman, who voted against those weapons and is calling for a ceasefire, or a lunatic Zionist that's owned by AIPAC like most of the other people in our Congress. Like, which one? And the thing is, too, is that when a lot of you leftists and stuff say, like, I don't care about voting, it's like, all right, well, they do. They do. The AIPAC people, they do. And they get their people in there, and then they drive the policy that we're all now protesting. All you're doing is handing them a gift. You're just saying, oh, awesome, keep putting your fucking corrupt, hack Zionist people in there, and we'll just watch with an angry face.
AIPAC is spending tens of millions of dollars to silence your voice in the Democratic Party and in Congress by attempting to unseat Bronx Principal Jamal Bowman in his election next week in New York against AIPAC recruit George Latimer. The reason they're spending tens of millions of dollars, largely raised from Republicans and Trump-backing donors, is because they want to send a message to the media, to the Democratic Party, and to anyone who even wants to consider running for office, that you cannot run for office, that you cannot be a Democratic elected official unless you side with AIPAC and the far-right government in Israel. Because if you don't do that, then we will work to spend millions of dollars to unseat you. They have the money, we have the people. We need to fight back. So I'm calling on you, if you believe in Palestinian human rights, to donate to Jamal Bowman, to phone bank, to knock doors. There's only 1 week left and every vote counts. This will be a close election, and we need to show AIPAC that our movement is stronger than them and that the generational tide is here to stay.
Do you want to help us beat AIPAC? Because right now I'm giving you that chance. There's a huge battle happening between these two people. This guy on the left, his name's George Latimer, and a few months ago AIPAC recruited him. Why? To oust this guy on the right, Jamal Bowman. Jamal currently holds the seat, and he's been calling for a ceasefire. He's been going to pro-Palestinian protests. He's been rejecting the pro-Israel lobby and its influence, and he correctly labels what's going on in Gaza as a genocide. And AIPAC can't have that. If you don't know much about the pro-Israel lobby, here's what they do. You can break it up into 3 parts. Their first job is to make sure that the US government maintains unconditional support for Israel, no matter what Israel does. Their second job is to make sure that US politicians want to keep sending billions and billions of our tax dollars to Israel. And their third job is to make sure that any politician who's not completely loyal to Israel or criticizes Israel in any way is ousted from power. So this is what AIPAC, the #1 pro-Israel lobby in the United States, is doing to Jamal Bowman. They're trying to oust him. Here's what they've done so far. George Latimer, before he announced his election, went on a 3-day mission which he led to Israel, where he met the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog. And as soon as he came back to the United States, he announced he was running to challenge Jamal Bowman for his seat. And AIPAC immediately endorsed George Latimer and gave him over $600,000. And then their super PAC, the United Democracy Project, which you can think of as just a branch of AIPAC, because that's exactly what it is, spent over $2 million in ads. By the spring, AIPAC was funding over 70% of George Latimer's campaign, but that's not even where it stops. Over the past month, the United Democracy Project has spent over $13.5 million against Jamal Bowman. I need you to understand how crazy this is. Nobody spends this much on a House race ever, except the pro-Israel lobby, because this is what they do. To make sure they oust whoever criticizes Israel or isn't loyal to Israel, they will spend an exorbitant amount of money, as much as they need to make sure that pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel or anti-Zionist or any critics of Israel are gone. So here's a few ways you can fight, and you do whatever you can do. Right now is early voting, and their election is on June 25th, making this the most critical time to flip votes. And so I have a link in my bio where you can donate $16 for the 16th district and support Jamal Bowman. Next up, obviously, if you live in the 16th congressional district in New York or know anybody who lives there, tell them or you yourself vote for Jamal Bowman. Share this message out there. Get more people to see this video so they can do these things. Maybe you have friends who are pro-Palestinian. Maybe they aren't even pro-Palestinian, but you just want to teach them about this. Repost this video, put it on your stories, download it, post it yourself, send the link to people over text messages. And if you don't want to send this video, you can send somebody the donation page. It's bit.ly/beatAIPAC. The last two ways you can help fight is follow Jamal Bowman on his socials and interact with him, repost his stuff as well. Or talk about this whole video on your own. Make your own content, do your own research. Tell people to go and help him out. This is the fiercest race of this election cycle, besides probably the presidential election. We must show AIPAC that we can beat them, but it'll take all of our help. Share this video. Thank you, and free Palestine.
Now, the attempt to unseat Jamal Bowman by AIPAC is a stark reminder of the insidious influence of money in politics. AIPAC's willingness to spend tens of millions of dollars to silence a progressive voice is a testament to the fear they have of Bowman's message and the change he represents. It's striking that AIPAC claims to represent Jewish values and safety, yet their actions perpetuate harm and violence against Palestinians and marginalized communities. Their recruitment of a candidate with a history of slow-walking desegregation and accepting donations from MAGA Trump supporters exposes their true priorities. This is not just an attack on Jamal Bowman, but on the very fabric of democracy. AIPAC's efforts to undermine progressive black leaders or those of color are a threat to the voices and concerns of marginalized communities. It's time to recognize the harm that AIPAC's influence has caused and to stand in solidarity with leaders like Bowman who are fighting for a better future for all. Now, the primary for New York's 16th Congressional District, which takes place on Tuesday, has drawn record-breaking spending with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, and the cryptocurrency super PAC behind the lion's share of the funding. Now, at Impact, a group tracking political advertisements, reported earlier this week that the race between the incumbent progressive representative Jamal Bowman and his challenger George Latma has become the most expensive House primary ever, with more than $23 million spent on ads so far. Now, the two are battling to represent a district that spans parts of the Bronx and Westchester County. Latma is leading in polling, and if he wins, he will be the first challenger to successfully unseat a member of the progressive squad. Now, the huge haul of outside spending, most of it funding ads attacking Bowman and supporting Latma, underscores Bowman's precarious position as a high-profile squad member whose criticism of Israel and outspoken support for Palestinian rights has drawn the ire of the pro-Israel lobby. But the race is more than a referendum on Israel-Palestine policy. It's also a test of the fledgling progressive wing of the Democratic Party, whose ranks Bowman joined after winning an upset primary victory in 2020 and defeating former Representative Eliot Engel, an incumbent who had held the office since 1989. Now, the New York race has brought that split between a generation of left-leaning Democrats and their establishment colleagues back to the force. Among Bowman's highest-profile supporters are the Senator Bernie Sanders and the Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known as AOC, who will appear at a rally on Saturday to turn out voters for the incumbent. Meanwhile, Latma has earned the support of the former Secretary of State and Democratic Party establishment, stalwart Hillary Clinton. Now, the race has turned ugly at times, with Latma claiming during a debate that Bowman had earned more support from Dearborn, Michigan, the only majority Arab city in the U.S., than his New York district. Since 7th October, Bowman has consistently voiced opposition to Israel's military operations in Gaza, a critical point of difference between the incumbent and his challenger, who has said he supports a two-state solution in the region but has not called for a ceasefire. Now, Latma has accused Bowman of rabble-rousing in Congress and has said he would govern as a centrist. And he avoided taking a position on tax hikes for the wealthy during a debate. The proxy war between the left and right of the Democratic Party has been bolstered by staggering outside spending, super PACs which can spend unlimited amounts of money on ads advocating for or against candidates, had spent $20.3 million as of 20th June, according to campaign finance records, which tend to slightly lag behind AIPAC's numbers. Now, a Guardian analysis of campaign finance records has found that 3 super PACs have spent nearly $18 million to unseat Bowman. United Democracy Project UDP, an AIPAC-affiliated super PAC, has spent more than $14.5 million backing LATMA, the most the group has spent on any single race in its history. LATMA has also benefited from $1 million from the group Democratic Majority for Israel and $2 million from the crypto-backed group Fair Shake, according to Federal Election Commission records. Meanwhile, a coalition of 10 progressive outside groups have spent about $3 million in support of Bowman. Both campaigns have also raised considerable cash in the form of direct campaign donations, in contrast with super PAC spending, which doesn't go directly to campaigns, with Bowman raising $5.9 million and LATMA nating $5.7 million. Now, of those contributions, a larger share of Bowman campaign cash has come from small donors than LATMA's, with a total of about $1.4 million in donations of less than $200 to LATMA's approximately $320,000. Now, the attempt to unseat Jamal Bowman and the massive spending by AIPAC to achieve this goal exposes the desperation and fear that Zionists have of voices that dare to challenge their narrative and agenda. It's clear that they will stop at nothing to silence anyone who dares to speak out against their beliefs and actions. Now, this isn't just about Jamal Bowman, it's about the systemic silencing of voices that are critical of Israel's actions and policies. AIPAC and other Zionist organizations are hell-bent on maintaining their grip on power and control, and anyone who threatens that is seen as a threat that must be eliminated. Now, the hypocrisy is glaring. AIPAC claims to be a democratic organization, yet they are willing to spend millions to undermine a democratically elected official. They claim to be fighting for Jewish safety, yet they are willing to silence Jewish voices that are critical of Israel's actions. Now, this is a classic case of authoritarianism, where those in power will stop at nothing to maintain their control and suppress dissenting voices. It's a stark reminder that the Zionist movement is more interested in maintaining their power and privilege than in democratic values or human rights. We have finally come to the end of the video. Share your thoughts and contributions as well in the comment section. Thank you for always watching, and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video.